today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about
It's all about sex, or is it? How to stop sabotaging your marriage with your own need for sex. Even though you can never go back to being in love, when we are being physically intimate with our wives and we want physical intimacy, we need to find a way to take that train and switch tracks. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship, and I'm your host, Rich Heller, and today we are talking about It's All About Sex, or is it? That's right, sabotaging your marriage with your own sex drive. Most men don't know it, but they are killing the opportunity for sex with their demand for it, with their need for it, with their drive for it. And in this episode, we're going to explore, why is that? What is going on that men sabotage their opportunity for really mind-altering sex with their wives by demanding it, by needing it, by wanting it? And we're going to do a couple of episodes on this. We're going to explore, how can this change? How can we do this better, men? So let's start with what makes us tick, guys. And ladies, forgive me if I'm address the men in this episode. If you're a woman listening to this, this will help you as well. This is going to help you to understand why your man keeps doing everything wrong to get what he wants, all right? It's really important that we understand the why of this, all right? And so the why of this is grounded in this. And we've talked about this in previous episodes, but I want to just keep reminding you. Studies of men's brains, the structure of the brain that evolves in a testosterone-dominant body. Let's hit it that way, because there are women who have high levels of testosterone and have brain structures similar to this, and there are men who have higher levels of estrogen and have brain structures different than this. But predominantly, right, men have more testosterone and their brain evolves in this way. Brains that evolve in that soup have less connections between the right and the left lobe, between the creative lobe and the rational side of the brain that is logical, is probably the best way to put it. So we each have a lobe, all right? The right lobe is more creative. The left lobe is more rational and logical. Very different. And men have less connections between these two lobes. Women, by the way, have tons of connections between these two lobes. And so what that means for men is that when we get on a track, when we get on one side or the other, we tend to hang out there for a while. And it becomes like train tracks for us. We tend to be more goal-oriented because of our brain structure. And also because of our brain structure, once we have a goal and we start chugging down those tracks, we tend to be less relational. We don't always see the big picture. Now, it might be that the track that we're on is to identify the big picture. So we'll sit there and we'll identify the big picture rationally. That's why I can do this show, right? I've seen the big picture. But what happens with me, like any other guy, is once we focus on one aspect of that picture, we forget the rest of the picture. We tend to get, what's the expression? Lost in the weeds. Now, women have more connections between the two lobes, so they move back and forth between the creative and the logical, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And as a result, they tend to move from big picture to little pieces with more fluidity. Actually, a woman's brain is 5% more efficient than a man's brain. Men's brains are slightly larger. And so women make up for the size difference with efficiency and with greater movement. And so women tend to be more ecological. And, my constant song to society is, the problem with the ecology is that we've had a male-dominated society for 2,000 years, and men are not ecologically minded. And so they've, in their drive and desire to grow in a particular area, have forgotten other areas of the ecology at the expense of the rest of the ecology. They've grown in an area. Women's minds, if we allowed women to run the society, then probably the ecological needs would be more met. And it is no accident that as women claim their equality in our society, we have become a more ecologically oriented society. But I digress. Men are this way. Now, we can be more ecologically minded. We can work at it. All right. We are not hopeless. But because it has been a male-dominated society for thousands of years, we're a little lazy about it. We're a little lazy about seeing the female point of view. Let's be honest. Women have had to see the male point of view in order to compete and claim their equality in a male-dominated society. They see the way we operate better than we see the way they operate. Right. And part of the shift and change that's happening in our culture is that we as men are starting to embrace our feminine side and be more ecological in our thinking. It's probably, honestly, probably driving a lot of neurological development for us. But the focus of this episode is how that linear thinking gets us in trouble. When we first meet our wives and we date them, that linear thinking really works for us. We focus on them with full intensity. We focus on all of their needs. Everything about them becomes important to us. We call them. When I met my wife, I was falling asleep at 1 a.m. talking to her on the phone. We would go out together and just sit in the park together and talk. And she had my full attention and my full focus. When I was at work, I was thinking about her. I was freaking obsessed with her. I know, guys, that if you're listening to me, you've had this experience, this in-love experience with the intensity of it. It's consuming, right? And because we're linear, we get on the tracks of you, babe. I got you, babe. It's all about you, babe. And we want to attend to their every need. We are tapping them on every plane. We are speaking every possible love language we can to them. We are buying them gifts, even if they don't like gifts. We are doing acts of service, even if that means nothing to them. We are affirming them and telling them how amazing they are while we're in love with them. Even if that means nothing to them, we're doing that. We are touching. Well, men love to touch. Even if they don't love it, we're touching them. We are, what did I miss? I'm missing a love language. Touch, words of affirmation, gifts, quality time. We're spending quality time with them. So when we're in love, we are speaking all 5 love languages. Now, guys, most human beings only receive 1, maybe 2 love languages, but that doesn't mean they don't notice that we are speaking all 5 love languages to them, and it makes them feel safe and they feel cared for, and we are attentive to their emotions. And then what happens? We get married and we have children, and our brain switches tracks. Oh, got to make money. Got to pay for these kids. Oh my God, I'm a provider. Even if she's working, we're on that track. My wife makes more money than I do, and I'm on that track. It's not about how much she's making. It's about, what am I contributing? What am I doing? Get on the track of provision, provision, provision. But then we have these other needs. We have our sex drive. We have a need. The semen builds up. It wants to be released. Notice the way I talk about this. I talk about this in a linear way. I don't talk about this as, all of a sudden I'm spending less time on my relationship and I don't feel as close to my wife and I need to feel close to her. I talk about it like a freaking guy. Oh, semen builds up, right? But that's going on too. There's also an emotional disconnect going on. It isn't just the physical disconnect, the physical expression of love. What makes physical intimacy with our wives so wonderful, when it's wonderful, is that we are emotionally present, right? When we were in love, we were firing on all of our pistons in that relationship. We were totally focused on that relationship. And when we had sex, it was great because we were emotionally present. We were intellectually present. We were spiritually present. All of who we are was present in that moment. But then we switched tracks. Oh, I need to provide. Oh, I need to protect my family. Oh, I need to give them a better home. And then it's like, what do I need to do in order to fulfill my mission of provision, protection, or whatever else I'm doing? Oh, baby, you're so hot. Let's do it. What do you mean you're not interested? Right? What happens is we start out giving them everything. And then when we get on the next track, they become another tool in our arsenal. They become an object for our personal fulfillment. Even the most loving, caring, relationship-focused guy will from time to time go, hey, I need some. And let's face it, most of us are not like that. Most of us view being attentive to our wives' emotional state as alien, maybe even feminine, maybe not part of who we need to be. But if you want to have a marriage that works, right? If you want to have sex that is fulfilling for you, not just her, but for you, you're going to need to go back to that place. And guys, we need to find a way to bring that, even though you can never go back to being in love, when we are being physically intimate with our wives and we want physical, I'm not talking about banging her. You know, when we want physical intimacy, we need to find a way to take that train and switch tracks. And that's a challenge, right? Because we don't switch tracks easily, many of us, but we can learn to. All right, so the consequence of our difficulty changing tracks easily, because let's face it, we are like a bullet train. You know, when we get on a mission, shoo, and that train, in order to change tracks, it either needs to slow down or the track needs to see that track coming in advance and plan for it. Because we have difficulty with this change, because we start turning to our wives and projecting, oh, you're an object for my fulfillment on them, they go to a completely different place. So let's talk about women and ecological needs, because they're ecological. They need to know that everything in their world is right and good before they can allow themselves to have sex. I'm not talking about premarital sex. I'm not talking about some unhooked sex drive. I'm talking about your average married woman who's got kids. I'll put it to you this way, all right? How likely is it that your wife is going to, when the kids are having breakfast, is going to say, baby, let's go do it now. They'll be okay. Not very likely. They want to make sure those kids are taken care of. And on that same line of thought, if they're working, and most of our wives are today, they're going to want to make sure that that is nailed down and complete. They're going to want to make sure that when they're physically intimate with you, when they're having sex with you, that they feel safe, that they feel like everything in their ecology and their environment has been taken care of, has been put to rest, and that there is space, time, and emotional space in their head to have sex. They need to feel safe. We want to have sex to blow off steam, and afterwards we feel safe and relaxed and good. They need to feel safe and relaxed and good before they can have sex. Was that true before you had children? Maybe not. Maybe at the in-love phase that wasn't true. Maybe at the in-love phase they were just having sex like an animal with you. But the reality is, once children come on the scene, that changes. So you need to get this. If you're married with children, that's changed. And if you want to have sex with them, you need to understand that they need to have everything put to bed, so to speak, in order to do that. That might mean scheduling sex. But here's the other thing, is they also need to feel that you are really and truly interested in them, not just what's between their legs. Now, I know that you're really and truly interested in them. And I know from personal experience, going to raise my hand here for those of you watching the video, from personal experience, that when I am on a mission at work or on the job, and then it's like, hey, baby, let's do it. You know, for me, I'm taking a break from my bigger mission. And my wife does not like that. She wants to feel like if I'm taking a break, I'm taking a long break. And if I'm taking a break, it isn't just so that I can release some tension. It's so that we can have meaningful expression one to another. That's really important to her. And I'm going to tell you something else, guys. When we surrender to their need for meaningful expression, it's better for us. It's a more holistic experience for us. More need than just blowing off steam gets met in that moment. And so it's worth it for you to think about, how can I make this work better? Now, the consequence of the way women are wired and the way men are wired and the way we approach sex with our wives in particular is that we systematically drive them away. We touch them and they think, oh, he just wants my chocha again. Oh, he just wants some sex, right? And it's a big turnoff for them. You need to get this. The reason why it seems like she's not attracted to you is the way that you're acting is not attractive to her. You just got to get it. And then the other thing that happens is, because our needs are not being met, we start to look to fulfill them in other places. That's right. There's a study that says that about 20% of men admit to cheating on their spouse at some point, but the statistics are much higher than that. And there are a lot of ways to cheat. If you listen to some of our previous episodes on intimacy and breach of trust and infidelity, which we just completed, there are a lot of ways to break trust and intimacy with your wife besides cheating. And so we're going to talk about this in the next episode. We're going to talk about, all right, so when we as men have needs and we're just not met or not getting them met enough in our marriage, what do we start doing? And here's the thing, because we have these one-track minds, what happens is even when our wives give us some, it doesn't really meet all the needs that we have. We actually are, in our hearts, wired for a bigger experience than let's just blow off some steam together. And when we just blow off steam together in our marriage, post fighting sex or whatever, it doesn't meet all of our needs. And so the next episode is going to be all about this. What are we doing with our needs that is taking us away from the marriage? What can we do? And also, I want you to look out in July, we're going to be doing a whole workshop on for you guys whose wives have totally turned away from you. It's just what I'm talking about. When I start talking about how to make it work, it sounds totally alien to you. We're going to do a workshop on how to win her back. Maybe you're a guy who's even been hit with divorce papers. We're going to talk about how to win her back in that workshop in July. So look out for that. All right. So next episode is going to be all about guys, needs, and how to get a more holistic fulfillment of our needs so that she can get a more holistic fulfillment of her needs. Look forward to seeing you then.